All right, guys, we got to do a little bit of an update on Avowed, this new RPG that has come out that's been pretty contentious. A lot of the conversation around it has had a lot more to do with the pronouns, the art director, the game director coming out and saying the game's going to be janky, essentially, and that you should just be okay with it because it makes the game more fun. You know, to a certain degree, I can tolerate a certain amount of, what you would call wokeness in a game. Like, for example, Starfield. I played Starfield. I looked at the pronouns in the game when you first create your character. I thought they were annoying and stupid, but it didn't ruin the game for me. What ruined the game for me was the game was utterly boring to me. I know there are other people who think Starfield's an amazing game and they've played it since and they absolutely love it. For me, the game was just kind of it was just whatever, right? That is how Avowed has looked to me. So aside from all the other controversies attached to it, on top of everything else going on with the game behind the scenes, it just doesn't seem like a game I want to play. But now we have an update from that Park Place. Says Avowed backtracks on pronoun display as Obsidian art director Matt Hansen maintains social media silence after outburst at Elon Musk. Now, this is really funny to see because for a second, I actually forgot that this guy isn't even on Twitter. He uses Blue Sky, which is not shocking. So it says, Avowed, the highly anticipated first-person fantasy RPG from Obsidian Entertainment, is currently out in early access, and players have already discovered a major concession concerning pronoun features. Despite months of controversy and bold rhetoric from art director Matt Hansen, it's now possible to disable pronoun display in the game settings. The discovery was first reported on X by former World of Warcraft leader Mark Kern, also known as Grums. And of course, you can see the tweet right here that says, "We win again." I don't see this as really being a win. I think that this is one of those things that either they added it into the game after the fact or they knew before the game came out that this is because it's become like a very contentious thing, right? A very controversial thing is the pronouns in the game. Because like everything else, and I'll say this again, a game can have pronouns where you pick your own pronouns, as stupid as it is, because I believe that there's only men and women, so you don't get to choose your own pronouns in real life. I'm sorry, you just don't. So as dumb as it is, pronouns alone in a game is not going to make a game terrible. Typically, though, it is a symptom of where the mind of the developers are at if it's something they feel they need to add to the game. So again, are they dumb? Yes. Do pronouns alone make a game terrible? No, but it definitely adds to it. Says Avowed forced to add pronoun option to disable the pronouns in the games. Whatever Matt Hansen was threatening with the default and putting wokeness in the game, he's been soundly rebuked. He hasn't posted to social media in 2 months, and you can see that actually on his Blue Sky. He's replied, in their most recent, as 15 hours ago, to somebody talking about his character designs or whatever a couple times. But other than that, on Blue Sky, he's been relatively silent for a couple of months now after lashing out at Elon Musk, which I find to be hilarious because whether you like Elon Musk or not, I criticize the guy all the time. The man's got a very massive platform. He owns his own social media platform, so attacking him on social media, probably not going to go the way you want to, right? Even if they had added an option to remove pronouns, I can't support a studio that does nothing when their art director espouses racist and illegal hiring practices, said Kern. That I do agree with. That is one of the reasons why I think people might be avoiding this game, because despite the game being kind of mid, it is on Game Pass, but I couldn't even be bothered to check it out due to the fact that I'm sure it's another 80, 90 gigabytes to download, on top of the fact that it sounds like it runs really poorly, on top of the fact that the people who made the game hate me and the game just looks generally mid. So that being said, the game currently is still sitting around 80 on Metacritic. So again, nothing that people are freaking out about like the best game of all time, but we don't have user scores in yet because the game is still in early access for the next 4 days, I do believe. So until we get the user scores, I'll be very curious to see how this critic score changes over the next couple days. We do have some new Steam reviews. This one from recently in the past day. 2.3 hours on record says not recommended. It's a very pretty, but for me, a lifeless game. I know there will be many that really enjoy it, but I found it to be very static, and by that I mean the world is no way near as interactive as you would expect, which is shocking because it's an RPG, and we have seen many more RPGs do a far better job of making a very life-filled world with a lot of interactivity going on than games like this. Says, it also seems simplistic and arcadey, which is one of the reasons I was turned off from the game, looking at the arcadey-looking graphics. which I think for some will be a massive plus, but unfortunately for me, it didn't grab me and make me feel immersed. I did try. I played on a harder difficulty with lots of extra immersive settings enabled, but it just wasn't enough. I do think I'm a minority, but if you like the gritty immersive RPGs, you might also find it isn't for you either, which I think a lot of people fall into that category. People like Oh No, It's Alex says, when you've put 300 hours into Pillars of Eternity, I'll take your opinion on Avowed seriously, effing tourists. So obviously, he's probably a little more positive about the game, even though he's not playing it yet because he's not spending $100 for early access, which I don't blame him one bit. Sorry guys, this had a minor coughing fit. Partial Mean on Twitter responds and says, I have at least 5 hours in Avowed so far. Here are my problems with it. The character creation is weak, like really weak. Performance problems when you get into a big city. You go from 60 frames per second to 30. The story so far is your run-of-the-mill chosen one story. Stamina drains way too fast in combat. Like I can run for pretty much 20 minutes, but I can't swing my sword 10 times. Other than that, the game's pretty solid. A lot of serious complaints, but the game's solid. So it's a very interesting combination of factors there. Permaband has this tweet with apparently a screenshot of real dialogue in the game, and most of it doesn't seem terrible, but there are some parts to it that I think are worth criticizing. So he says, frowns with mild distaste, imagine 2010's Tumblr on DeviantArt comments roleplay, and you have Avowed's dialogue writing. I hope that's enough of a description. And you can see right here, it says, number 1 option is don't make me start counting. Number 2 option says put your hand on your weapon and raise your eyebrow. 1 says excellent, I love a challenge. 2 is nod solemnly and leave. 1 is why are you smuggling in contraceptive herbs. 2, start to say something, then stop yourself. Good doing business with you. Number 1, I appreciate the help. Number 2, before I go, what can you tell me about these rebels? Number 3, smile dangerously. Try not to do business with any more assassins. Again, it does seem a little bit like Tumblr art kind of fan fiction, very strange dialogue. But here could be some of the biggest problems with the game. Matthew Jones on Twitter says, LOL, Avowed is cooked. You can't steal, pickpocket, break into homes, or attack NPCs. We were expecting the next Skyrim, but got less than Daggerfall, source G-Man Lives. And that's from a video right here. I'll go ahead and play for you guys right now.
And it's supposed to be a role-playing game. I was also surprised at just how little role-playing there actually is. Walking around the various towns, for instance, they may as well be empty because outside of the few merchants or NPCs you can interact with, everything else is just window dressing, with people all standing around idly to give the illusion of the place actually being bustling. You can't even attack the guards or the other NPCs with your weapons having no effect. You can't break into people's homes, you can't pickpocket anyone, and you can outright steal someone's belongings from right under their nose and they're not even going to react.
I'm not climbing up there. The tower's barely standing.
Even the Elder Scrolls and the Fallout games would let you randomly attack otherwise friendly NPCs if you wanted to, forcing you to then pay the toll for your actions. And Morrowind had that infamous message if you locked a playthrough into a so-called doomed world, letting you still play on to experience that reality you created. But yeah, here we are in 2025 with a so-called AAA game that's been in development for half a decade, where things have regressed so much that any kind of genuine player freedom's just been completely removed.
Meanwhile,
Despite there being
Yeah, this is a major problem for me. So, especially given the fact that it's an RPG and it's coming out at the same month as Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which does a lot of these things better. No, not everything in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 you can interact with. However, every single character, every single NPC has a routine that they move around and do. And certainly, if you attack 99% of the characters in Kingdom Come Deliverance, you're going to get a reaction. So you can see right now, Avowed has currently got about a 9,700 player peak, which is not terrible. Let's remember, this game is in early access. These numbers are nothing to necessarily scoff at yet, because as it stands right now, this is a game that costs, over $100 to play in early access. So not everybody is going to go out and buy this game right away. Some people are going to wait for it to be on Game Pass, for the full version in a few days. Some are going to buy it on Steam, maybe on sale. So we will have to wait and see what the numbers look like eventually. However, something that is telling though, if you compare this to Baldur's Gate 3, a game that had a very long development cycle and was actually available all the way back in October of 2020, but again, it was not a full version of the game. It was just like a small partial version, I guess. When this game went to pre-early access, pre-release in July, so a few days before it actually, went full version and had 875,000 people playing it all at once in August, in July it still managed to get 32,000 people playing it, despite not being the full version of the game. And again, I think that this screenshot alone kind of tells you everything you need to know about what this game is up against in terms of games like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Synthetic Potato says, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is so detailed that I just found out NPCs will have breakfast with their entire family every morning before heading off to work. The amount of effort it must have taken to program all this is insane. No wonder this game took 7 years to develop. And also, I think it's also worth stating, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 had a much smaller budget, presumably, than Avowed. The numbers are under 100 million as far as the projected budget for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and you can imagine that Avowed probably exceeded $100 million, because that's just kind of the standard for AAA gaming these days. Also, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 still has a concurrent player count of about 161,000 people playing it, whereas Avowed probably won't hit that number if we're being honest about it. So let me know what you guys think about all this down below. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about it, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Alright, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.